What's up, y'all? So it's about time that I go over my gear and my gems and my tree and my build. So before we get into any of that, I want to make a little speech. So I am totally against clickbait. I'm morally opposed to it. You guys will never catch me saying that my build is the strongest or best, most optimized, fastest, sickest, most fun, because that's all bullshit. And I'm not going to be bullshitting like that. My choices are never necessarily correct. I can make mistakes. I can be wrong. These are all just things that logically made sense to me at the time, and so I put them together. And I always welcome input if you guys have any ideas. There are god tier build makers out there, and I'm not one of them. As a couple of examples, and these guys might come off as deranged psychos, but Jungron and Rutu are literal Path of Exile geniuses, and I highly recommend the content. One thing I will say though is that I love my belt. It's a one button blaster, it's a ton of fun, and it's been strong enough to get me through all content I've faced so far, so let's get to it. Alrighty, let's take a look at the gear. So, crossbow. So you just want a high fizz crossbow with two bolts, or I like the two bolts. So the leech, you can get this on rings, you can get this on gloves, you can get this on the crossbow. You don't even need it at all, but I really like leech. Level of proj skills also not necessary, but the level of proj skills is basically the equivalent of 5% more damage on the crossbow per level. So 4 levels is 20% more damage on the crossbow. So it's as if this crossbow had 20% more physical damage on it. Get a high PTPS crossbow. And three dragons. So obviously we're running three dragons. It's cheap enough that you can get a good corruption on it. So I corrupted this guy to 23% all res, which is plus 9%. It's even better if you get a socket on it. So you can an extra socket on a 20% three dragons is the equivalent of 12% more resist. This is 9% more resists. So amulet. You really want the anoint. It's about 12x when I paid for it. This saves you quite a few points on your tree because you want 100% pierce. And life, standard, attributes, because I'm always an attribute hell. The spirit, I do really like the number 45 because that lets me fit in all the reservations that I'm using. Get this on your chest as well, or you don't even have to run it at all if you don't want to run what I'm running. Chest. This one, it's okay. It probably looks better than it is because the armor is absolutely worthless. I don't know if you guys know anything about the armor calculation in Path of Exile, but small amounts of armor do absolutely nothing. The character sheet, it lies to you. So for armor, the way that it works is that the amount of mitigation you get from it is relative to the size of the hit. So for a small hit, you might be able to mitigate that with a medium amount of armor, but any like medium-sized hit, any big hit, you're going to need a ton of armor to reduce that by any meaningful amount. And so if you're not stacking armor to the moon, it's really not going to be protecting you from those big fizz hits, and you might as well just have gotten evasion body armor. So here, get an evasion body armor because just one armor piece, just half an armor piece, not going to get you anywhere. Don't mess with it. This ring, super cheap, life resists attributes, rarity, you want as much of that. Once your life resistant attributes are covered, you fit in as much rarity as possible. So the more life resistant attributes you have on the rest of your gear, the more rarity you can fit in. This ring, it has life resist attributes and mana leech. So I do really like the mana leech. You got to press one less button. I'm not trying to fuck with more buttons. I'm not trying to fuck with mana flask. So here we are with the mana leech. I paid quite a bit for this guy. Boots, these things are trash. I'm pretty sure I just bought the bare minimum of what I needed at the time to make my build work. But yeah, life resists attributes and movement speed, and you get rarity too. So you do want like 30, 35% movement speed, whatever you can afford, the best that you can afford, life resistant attributes. Gloves, same deal. These are also a slot for life leech and mana leech if you're going for those, and damage too. And on the type of flat damage you want, I'm fairly certain fizz damage is the best because it's scaled by Red Sloth, it's scaled by heft, and then converted to fire, and then scaled by your elemental damage. So fizz damage probably the best. Attack speed is good too. Right, sloth is. So I paid quite a bit for this guy, or did I? I paid 59x and then divided it myself. So that's probably going to be a little out of reach for anybody except the biggest ballers. So Rice Sloth is, this is where I want you guys to ask yourselves, actually, every single piece that I have, anything that I paid currency for, I want you guys to ask yourselves, is this worth it to me? So Rice Sloth is, it's 25% damage. So 25% more damage. Is this worth it to you? And I thought it was, but if it's not, if it's out of your price point, if it's out of your price range, then don't buy it. Get a rare. And then with that rare, you can cover your life and resists and attributes, and you can fit more rarity into the rest of your gear, get more loot. So, the gear, it's really basic. If you guys have the currency for it, you can do way better than I have. You can get a way better crossbow, going to give you so much damage. A huge upgrade would be 2 breach rings and an ingenuity. That is going to make you enormous. So if you guys got the currency, I invite you to do better than I have. As I earn currency, I'm going to keep on upgrading my build. So the gems. Before I mouse over these, I'm going to get super repetitive here, but I encourage you guys to experiment. If you have something that you like better, go for it. This is by no means perfect. This is just what I run. This is what I like. So auto reload, love this thing. It automatically reloads for you. No sheet damage, not necessarily that good on bosses, but I'm in love with auto reload. Martial tempo, scatter shot, heft, and then fire infusion. So this guy actually reduces your damage while mapping because it'll reduce your ice bite and innervate, which are actually a huge amount of damage, but it'll increase your single target because you won't have those on single target encounters like the boss or like bosses. Herald of Thunder. This does not need to be 6 length, but I wanted to 6 link it. So we have Innervate, Ice Bite, Lightning Pin, Glaciation, and Culling Strike. Glaciation is so you can freeze, because Ice Bite activates on freeze. The Culling Strike is so you can kill, because the Innervate activates on Culling Strike. And Lightning Pen, just so this guy's doing damage. Emergency Reload, I love this one too. I always emergency reload when the boss is stunned. So I stun, shoot 2 shots from the auto reload, then emergency reload, shoot 2 more shots. So you get a lot of consecutive shots in a row while the boss is stunned. Herald of Ice, Primal Armament, generic damage, magnified effect for the AoE, Cold Pen, just to give it some damage. Oil Grenade, so it has encumbrance. So none of these supports are absolutely necessary. Strip Away is good. This is just to give you some exposure and exploit weakness. I'll go over this later. Wind Dancer. I don't know if this guy works. Precision. I am not entirely certain that accuracy is mandatory, but if you read the accuracy tooltip in game, it seems like you lose a huge amount of accuracy at long range. Cannibalism. I love this guy too. It's huge. It's night and day the difference when you're mapping. Definitely worth the shot if you guys want to check it out. Flammability. I stole this setup. So we have Persistence, Ritualistic Curse, Heightened Curse, and Arcane Tempo. So these guys just give Curse Effect for a bigger flammability, Persistence for it to last longer, but I cast this on bosses. You can cast a little bit early because it's got a pretty big activation delay, but you want to combine flammability and the oil grenade for exposure to reduce their resistances by a lot. And then Herald of Ash. So we have Fire Mastery, just because I didn't know what else to put. And then Swift Affliction, I have no clue if this works. I just tossed this in here. And then we got Gas Grenade. So this is an interesting one. So Gas Grenade does a little bit of damage, it breaks armor, and it dazes. So the armor break, it's okay, because about a quarter of your damage is physical. So it's a little bit of damage. It also explodes for a little bit of damage. And then daze, it gives you more stun build up. So when you break their armor, it breaks like instantly. When you break their armor, you get 6 seconds of daze for more stun buildup. But if their armor stays broken, you can't daze them again because it's on armor break. So that's why I have exploit weakness on the oil grenades, so I can clear the broken armor, so I can break their armor again, so I can daze them again. So that's why I had exploit weakness on the oil grenade. It's just so I can repeatedly break their armor for more days. The gas grenade, this whole like armor break situation, it's not necessary. You don't need to do this. And then the tree, I don't have a huge amount to say about it. I've had it available for a while now on Mobiletics, but let's take a quick look. So I dropped the fire pen because if I'm using flammability and exposure, the penetration is not useful on bosses because penetration cannot go below 0, and it comes after the exposure and the reductions to the resistances. And then I'll do a quick mouse over all my jewels. These guys are just generic damage, reload speed, attack speed, and a little bit of percentage evasion too. Then this guy, not necessary. It costs me how many points? So it's the points for the jewel socket, and then the extra passive points for a little bit of evasion and 50% increased damage. These can be spent elsewhere. You can even just get it from the jewel instead and put a rare jewel here instead. One thing I will say is acrobatics. So a lot of people have been talking about running acrobatics. I think it's a great idea. I saw some guy on YouTube. He had a ton of attack speed from this wheel over here, from his jewels, and he had acrobatics. So my evasion is not particularly high. If you guys find yourselves dying, acrobatics might be the play, honestly. You can do everything else the same as me, run a different tree, slightly more evasion, go for it. And then these are the ascendancy points. Far shot versus point blank. So far shot, it's going to be better for bossing because you stand far away from the boss, right? But point blank, it's going to be better for pretty much everything else. If breach monsters get in your face, you're going to point blank them. So if you do want to play in close range of the boss with point blank, maybe point blank is the play. But this is honestly up to you. I far shot right now. There we have it. That's the build. Thanks for watching, you guys. And as always, let me know if there's any improvements you think I can make. A lot of the stuff that I have, it's actually from people commenting on my videos, and I'm always happy to implement great ideas from you guys. And then I'm going to send you guys off with a quick kill on Xesht, the breach boss. So single target, not a strong suit of the build, but we got the job done. And it did take 2 tries. I do die, but I'm not going to be uploading those deaths. Come on, guys.
We that